Let's turn our focus first to the Middle East, where David Lammy will arrive very shortly alongside his French counterpart as the Foreign Secretary tries to avert an escalation in the conflict between Israel and Iran, which has the potential, of course, to spill over pretty quickly into all-out war in the Middle East. Chris Doyle joins us, commentator on Middle Eastern politics and director of the Council for Arab-British Understanding. Chris, great to have you with me tonight. How significant a trip is this for David Lammy, his French counterpart, and just how dangerous is the situation in the Middle East right now? Good evening.
Good evening. It's very welcome that David Lammy and the French Prime Minister are going out there to show that key European powers are desperately concerned about the situation because it is extremely serious. We are awaiting some form of Iranian response to very high-profile assassinations attributed to Israel, including the leader of Hamas in Tehran, Iran's capital. And all of this could tip the region from already what is a very serious state into something worse. It could lead to a full-on confrontation as opposed to the medium-scale war that we see at the moment between Israel and Hezbollah. And of course, at the same time, and we have seen attempts today at reigniting ceasefire talks in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, that is continuing. That 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza are still suffering there. That conflict, that Israeli assault on Gaza is going on, and hundreds of thousands are faced with disease and starvation, which is also stirring up tensions in the region. So it's crucial that David Lammy goes out there. And I think really the question is this to make a performance, or is it a real effort to bring an end to all of this? Now, if it is the latter, if he is going to be serious, then he needs to have been given the tools by Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, but probably also behind the scenes by the Americans to read the Riot Act, because this has gone on for too long. It's been over 10 months that we've seen all of these tensions, the Israeli assault on Gaza, and it's quite clear, really, to all observers, including Israeli, that Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has very little interest in a ceasefire. But
and so too Hamas,
ceasefire,
and so too Hamas, Chris. They've explicitly said yesterday they didn't want to reopen talks.
No, Hamas have said something quite different, actually. Hamas have said that they would accept the proposal as outlined by President Biden at the end of May and the beginning of July. Now, Hamas's word, may be taken with a pinch of salt, but it needs to be tested. I think they're under considerable pressure, obviously militarily, given what is going on within Gaza. They've just lost their leader in Ismail Haniyeh. So I think there is actually probably more of a willingness we're hearing from interlocutors from Hamas to sign up. And even Iran has said that its own response may be put off if there is a ceasefire in Gaza. So the thing is, for Prime Minister Netanyahu, he has a problem in holding his own coalition together. There are significant portions of it that don't want to see ceasefire. They don't want any form of deal. They believe that they should just continue. But this is actually rubbing up against much of the international community now that believe that this must come to an end.
In terms of the potential escalation with Iran, Chris, I mean, Iran's not listening to the West. Netanyahu doesn't seem to be listening to the West. Does the UK and the US have any real influence in this anymore?
Well, the US has plenty of influence over Israel should it choose to exercise it.
Because Netanyahu seems to be ignoring everybody and everything that's being said to him.
I think there's an issue here of political will on the part of the US. I mean, this week we have just seen the authorization of $25 billion worth of American military kit to Israel, including fighter planes. Now, it's within the powers of the president to put that on pause. And Israel would have to listen to the United States if the United States really kicked up a fuss. Now, of course, on Iran, all these powers have far less influence. Of course, the United States doesn't have any relationship with Iran. but it does have a new president, slightly more of a reformist tendency. There are carrots that can be offered to it. And Iran itself does not want an all-out regional war. I think that's been very clear. Mm-hmm. Both Iran and Israel can be accused by many people of having stirred things up, having brought things very close to the precipice, but actually it would be very damaging. There isn't a real great winning scenario for any of these groups in an all-out war.
Nobody wins.
Would be degrees of losing, and that is not something I think that they will want to see, and hopefully we can pull these parties back from the brink, because it's going to be civilians as ever, whether Israeli, Palestinian or Lebanese, who will pay the price.
Chris, thank you very much indeed. Let's hope cool heads prevail, which is not something, of course, that's happened often in that region in recent months in particular. Chris Doyle there, commentator on Middle Eastern politics and director of the Council for Arab British Understanding.